Hit it, you Baka Gaijin.
Baka Talk.
Tonight's discussion is about ReZero, a show full of waifus who aren't real and you'll never hold hands with, no matter how many love pillows you buy.
Hello, Internet.
How are we doing?
I'm good. I'm Rob. And you
I'm
are?
Sam.
Hi, Sam.
Hi, Rob.
So this is a podcast where we're going to be talking about anime and characters and narrative and all that kind of good, juicy stuff. And
Juicy.
like you said in your very professional intro that you just gave,
Why,
we are,
thank
in
you.
fact, going to be talking about ReZero today. So, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was that, well, first of all, you saw ReZero before I did, I believe, right?
I did. It's been a couple of weeks. Sorry, weeks, years, same difference.
Yeah, well, it's all the same.
So, you know, I've slept a few times since then. We'll see. We'll see how much I can piece together.
Right, same. It's been a few days for me at the very least. I think a week by now. I still have it pretty fresh. I actually took notes. And one thing...
You would.
I would. One thing I remember you kind of mentioning that I really wanted to get into was the main protagonist of ReZero first.
Yes, Subaru. I don't remember his last name because it's not a car.
Was it like I'm gonna butcher it, but like I want to say like Natsuki or something like that, or
Oh yeah, that does sound right.
it's something like that. I probably butchered that too, but whatever.
I mean, who cares? Who cares what his last name is? Nobody calls him that.
Subaru. It's a car.
It is not. It is Natsuki, actually.
Is
Good
it?
job.
Okay. Nice. Thank you. I didn't even look at my notes for that.
You're allowed to feel good about yourself now.
I don't. Continue, please.
Oh, Rob.
It's okay.
Rob, does somebody need a hug?
I mean,
Come here.
look.
I'm right over here.
Okay.
So as far as Subaru goes, I noticed consistently as I was reading comments on episodes, and even when I've talked to a couple of friends about him, that people seem to hate him.
Right.
And I'm not totally sure why. Actually, I do understand their reasons. I just don't agree with them.
Okay.
And I don't know how you felt about Subaru, but as one of my friends put it, he's got kind of the Shinji effect, where he doesn't just, shrug off loads of stress and trauma that would absolutely ruin a real person.
Right.
There are a lot of reasons that people might not like that. I hesitate to say that it's just because, it's not their power fantasy at that point, because that's a little too dismissive.
Right. I definitely agree with you. I will say, just to throw it out there, I am not a fan of Shinji whatsoever.
Yeah.
Personally, and a lot of people aren't.
Right.
And that's okay if people think differently, if they do think he's a great character. I love character development. I love characters who are flawed. And I think Subaru was a good balance of that. I think Shinji was just too much one way.
He was too static. Yeah.
Yeah. But Subaru kind of like he develops from it, and he
Subaru,
realizes
in my opinion, changed quite a lot from starting out as like the overconfident, the sort of almost a riff on the typical protagonist of the high schooler dropped in a fantasy world.
Right. I definitely felt that
trend,
but
where he's like, oh well, I'm the protagonist of this RPG, and then gradually he gets his, and he was very just like optimistic and kind of happy.
Right. But I believe I understand what you're saying. He definitely was dropped into this world, and then he was just kind of being like, oh well, then I obviously must be some super powered being, like I'm the main character, this is great, this is what's supposed to happen, right? And he acts all jovial about it at first, and then he realizes as time goes on that like, oh, this shit's really real. Yeah, like this is not fun anymore.
Yeah, there was definitely that point of this isn't fun anymore. I like these shows like ReZero and Iron-Blooded Orphans, where they'll have they'll take the typical teenage protagonist, but then treat them like actual teenagers, where they're kind of stupid, not kind of naive, not always great at dealing with this trauma. Like it explores the actual effects of trauma like that on such a young person.
Definitely. It's good when the character acts their age.
Yeah. Which, and he sees like a pretty girl and he immediately falls in love with her without really knowing anything about her.
Yeah.
And I do think we should talk about about Emilia.
Oh,
and,
definitely. We will.
Characters.
I actually wanted to refer to my notes real quick about essentially, because I remembered you kind of asking that last time when we talked personally about like, what'd you think of Subaru? Like Subaru was this kind of character and stuff.
Right.
And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I'm going to check out the show. So I was watching the show and I was writing my own notes. And what I picked up on Subaru's character was, let's see, in my notes I have, Subaru is a good protagonist, but absolutely insane with good reason. Good character development. If you went through what he did, could you honestly say you'd act similar? You wouldn't act similarly, if not worse.
Nobody could say, because nobody in real life has ever fucking died.
Right. Like you die and then revert back to some point in the past and you retain all your memories and no one else
can't
does
talk to anyone about it.
And you can't even reveal it. Exactly.
That would tear anyone apart, I think.
How are you not going to go mad from that? So
yeah,
if people have a problem with him, like kind of freaking out, or maybe people think that he doesn't freak out enough. Maybe he should be. Why does he sometimes just kind of jump back? He suppresses it. But that's the point, because he does eventually have his major breakdown.
Yeah, exactly. He did. Yes. It was episode 15, I think. And I remember someone commenting on that and calling him a toxic tool. And that was the point where I was just like, okay, what? Because he spends like most of the episode just catatonic, staring ahead, doing nothing, and they still call him a toxic tool.
This character's obviously destroyed.
And I don't want to antagonize anyone over an anime. I would urge you to rewatch it and rethink it.
Right. And I'm not going to say that Subaru's the best character ever fucking made. Like, he's not.
No, definitely not. But he's a lot better than people are giving him credit for. And I think it's worth talking about, because I think that there are aspects of his character development that I haven't seen discussed or explored enough by viewers.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Who just sort of have a disturbing tendency to dismiss him out of hand.
He shouldn't
so that's the whole reason I really want to talk about it.
Right. He shouldn't be brushed off.
Exactly. And I'm going to go ahead and say personally for me that his whole speech about all the things that he hates about himself hit pretty close to home for me.
For me too.
When he talked about how like he doesn't do anything, but he's a pro at complaining, I was like, oh, ouch. Because I definitely feel that way about myself sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, I believe everyone has those moments where they get down on themselves. And if not, then, I mean, good for you. Like, really? Like, that's awesome. But not to make this like a sob fest or anything, but it's just like, there's a lot that I feel is wrong or it could be better. I'm kind of in a shitty place. And sometimes you just feel that way. You think that way about yourself and you have to like force yourself out of it and think positive. And it's tough. It's really tough sometimes.
Yeah. I feel like, and in that way, I feel like he's relatable.
He's very human.
Not in the typical protagonist way where it's just like a blank slate and you're expected to just fill it in with your own personality.
Right. Project yourself on the character.
Which I've always found really lazy and boring. But instead, giving him traits that a lot of people are going to be able to relate to if they allow themselves to, if they think about it, which is more interesting to me because, it's yourself.
Yes.
At the same time. Not to ascribe too much, artistic masterpiece status to ReZero.
Right.
But I definitely feel like that is a positive thing that it had going for it, for me at least.
I do too. I definitely feel like that it is it is more, their characters are more relatable for the most part. Not everyone, but some of them are more relatable than a lot of animes out there. Like you said, like you just kind of like, here's a blank slate and you sort of project yourself on them, I guess. But you know.
I hear you. Oh, sorry.
No problem.
Something in my nose. Just a little bit of Kirito in my nose.
All right. But yeah, so essentially, he's not a bad character. He does go through a hard time. He is extremely flawed, but that's what makes him a good character, whether you hate him or not. I mean, if you hate him, then in a way, they kind of did their job because they gave you an emotional reaction. Like they made you feel something for this character. It wasn't
he makes
positive.
sense to me. He feels like a person.
Right. And can you blame other characters for thinking he's mad when he does kind of lose it at times?
No, not at all, because they have no idea what the fuck's going on with him, and they can't. He can't tell them.
Exactly.
So it's one of those very distressing situations where they're not wrong. He can't do anything much differently because he's becoming so paranoid and disconnected from reality because of all the trauma he's suffered,
I remember earlier on in the series when he's kind of figuring things out. Like it takes him a little bit to realize what his weird power, if you want to call it, is.
Yeah.
For some reason, like it doesn't click, and I that kind of threw me off a little bit. But then it's eventually I was just kind of like, oh man, like he's got it. Like just tell somebody, right? And then when he actually goes to, I was just like, oh shit, there we go.
Yeah.
Now this is messed up.
Yep. He gets his heart grabbed by Satella.
Yeah, the jealous witch.
Yeah,
supposedly.
The jealous witch. But she's called Satella, which sounds maybe delicious. I think maybe
I was thinking of like saltine crackers.
I'm getting impressions of Nutella to me personally.
Oh, that's even better. See, I was just thinking of like crackers and peanut butter.
Well, crackers and Nutella, or crackers and Biscoff spread, because it's made of fucking cookies.
There you go. Oh man. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
That's no, not at all.
That is a conversation we had before we started recording. My mistake.
Right. No, not at all. It's I mean, anything made of fucking cookies is great. My opinion.
Fucking cookies.
So the next thing I wanted to bring up.
Yes.
Let's see. Referring to my notes.
Oh, gotta consult his notes all the time.
Just a little bit.
Come on, man. Just roll with it.
Rem versus Emilia.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Do I have to pick one of the two?
No, not at all. What I want to talk about is.
Are we talking about who I like better or who I think is better with Subaru?
Let's not necessarily refer to as best waifu or best with Subaru, but let's talk about the
best waifu.
Character itself.
Who's best waifu?
But actually, no, I'm not gonna. Let's talk about Emilia and Rem just yet. Let's talk about other characters in general.
I like Rem. She's a Mado.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you for that.
Rem-chan. Suki Desu!
I will admit, when I was watching it, and I was like, at night, I heard things about the show, obviously, like months before I watched it, right? And I knew that there was something between the Rem and Emilia characters. And then when I was watching it for the first time, obviously, I see Rem and Ram.
Yeah,
and I was just like,
made twins.
And I was just kind of like, what's with Ram? Like I was expecting this to turn into like a straight up harem.
Well, because usually
usually
in these shows, when you have two twin characters, and it seems the case with these two, they're like inseparable. They're almost like one character.
I was trying to think ahead in my weird way, like trying to like think like what they're gonna possibly do with this situation. I'm like, are they really the same person? And it's like Rem, and that's why no one talks about Ram later.
Quite the opposite. They're very different, and one becomes important more important than the other.
And I like that.
Yeah, I like that too.
I was glad that they didn't stick to the whole. They're like, of course they were always together, but then they weren't.
Right.
And when they weren't, it was like
they almost seem to be playing it straight. This show actually does that a lot, I've noticed, where it seems to play something straight and then it's like, nope, and it diverges.
Little curveballs.
For instance, the entire genre of the dude of the high schooler showing up in RPG world. It seems to be playing that straight relatively at first, and then just the entire premise of the show. But yeah, I did like that. I did feel similarly about that. I do have issues with Rem as a character personally.
Really?
Yeah. It's for me, she's, I don't know if you want me to get into that right now.
Oh, go ahead. Sure. Why not?
All right.
I have notes on Rem too.
Personally, it's sort of the opposite of Subaru for me, where I find him relatable and he makes sense to me as a person.
Mm-hmm.
Rem doesn't make a lot of sense to me. She seems crazy as shit. Sorry to just come out and say that. Oh boy,
no,
I just realized how much hate I'm gonna get for saying that.
That's
because she has a lot of fans, but
that's why we're discussing.
I'm just gonna fucking tell you, your waifu is shit.
Oh my god. Okay, so what I wrote about Rem, essentially, is that I think Rem is a better character than Emilia, but I want to read this out first.
You and I are gonna fucking fight. Go ahead.
Well, we can fight. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'll lose, but we can fight.
You're too nice. Go ahead.
Rem's character definitely does begin to hinder when she is obviously gaga for Subaru,
right?
After being rejected, still, like that's that I didn't like that. I mean, if not that, she supports him, but it's done in a way that's like a vicious cycle. Like, she loves him, he immediately refers to Emilia again, and then she's just okay with it, and then just sort of repeats. I mean, in short, she wants his D real bad. Like, that's what her character is.
Or she's just that pure. Ramshan is pure, and she's devoted to him no matter what.
She's not, though. I'm just gonna say that. Like,
she would be devoted to me.
All right. I feel like we spent more time with Rem than we did Emilia.
Yeah, which that's true.
And that's not fair, in my opinion. I would have liked to have seen more of Emilia personally. I really did enjoy Emilia when she was around. However, I felt we just got to know Rem more, and she was I thought she was great, and then eventually she became a character that was like, she's crazy. She's a crazy bitch.
Definitely.
This is hard for me to explain because I'm like, I enjoy her character because she's a crazy bitch.
It doesn't detract from your love of her.
I like Rem as a character more, but not as a waifu.
Right.
Because I just know more of Rem than Emilia.
Yeah, let's just put waifus aside and just talk about them as characters.
Right, exactly. Okay, so I enjoyed Rem because we saw her more, so I felt like I got to know her character more.
That's true. Meanwhile, she does have more of a presence in the show.
Right.
But I don't think she's supposed to be as crazy as she came off. I think she was just poorly written. That's going to be my opinion that I'm putting out there.
And you know what? That makes sense. And I'm afraid that's what that is. And I'm trying to find a reason.
I think we understand where we're coming from, but for the benefit of viewers, let's talk about why we think she's crazy. Do you want to go first or me?
You start.
So here's the thing about Rem. Even forgetting her berserk demon mode, which whatever, it's anime stuff. Mm-hmm. Her as like her normal self, she wanted to murder Subaru brutally. This
is true.
As was demonstrated by the fact that she absolutely did murder Subaru brutally, mm-hmm. and then tortured Subaru until he was killed by Ram. Mm-hmm. And then we have to keep in mind that even though we see her over several episodes, in actuality, a very short amount of time has passed, and not everything that's happened has actually happened.
This is true.
Subaru, in my opinion, didn't seem to do all that much over those few days that would change Rem's mind so drastically from wanting to brutally murder him to being absolutely devoted to him no matter what.
Saved her life supposedly once.
Sure. okay, he did that for
I agree with
Emilia
you.
too, but she
Yes.
didn't absolutely just devote herself to him.
Yes, true.
It just strikes me as it. I feel like the drastic change in her attitude towards Subaru was disproportionate to what he actually did, to what actually occurred in those days that they knew each other, and it was just days. Like Emilia's gratitude was expressed in a more rational way, in my opinion. Like whereas Rem, uh, I don't understand her as much. This may be unfair, but I feel like part of that whole devoted trait was just sort of to sell her as a waifu because, as my friend who lives in Japan told me, there is a lot of Rem merchandise over there. And let's not kid ourselves. As
Right.
good as ReZero is, studios are run to make money, and I'm sure there was some meddling to try and put waifus out there to sell merchandise.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, they definitely played that, and in the lack of a better way of saying it, in like a marketing sense, I can see
Yeah,
that.
it
Like
is. It's there, and I'm not going to shit talk it. People have to make money
right.
off of this stuff, or we're never going to see a fucking season 2.
Right.
Which
Which I prefer to see a
I
season 2.
personally would like to. Yeah. That's basically my feeling on Rem.
Right. In the episode where Subaru spills his guts about how he hates himself to Rem,
Right.
and they have that moment. Right before that, he's all like, let's run away, let's do this thing.
Yeah.
And then Rem's just like, no. I was like, okay, cool. But then she continues to go on about all her fantasies that she has.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, okay, now I understand that some people, many people, I've talked to some, and some like to get ahead of themselves in their mind and think about all these things, especially when they're with someone new. They're like, oh, well, what if I actually marry this person?
Say it to someone.
But to actually say it to someone, I was like, okay, she is crazy. That is
Yeah.
not as touching as they're making it sound. That's actually batshit crazy.
Yeah, I actually felt the exact same way when she was talking about all the things that she loved about it. I'm like, you've known him for what, a few weeks, months, maybe? Like,
Right.
I don't know. How long had she known him at that point? Like a couple of months at most, very tops.
At most, I think that's even being generous with it.
That's like a long estimate there. Like, yeah, that's I would estimate it at maybe a couple weeks. That would scare me the fuck off. I would also be like, I love Emilia. Whether I do or not.
just to be like,
stay away from me.
Yeah, I don't really want to deal with this right now. I don't know. I'm very torn with it because I like Rem's character, but then they kind of gets lost. She could have been better.
Frankly, I feel like it's impossible to disregard the waifu angle because I feel like they pushed it.
They definitely did, like for those purposes. For like, okay, this is best girl. This on purpose, best girl.
Yeah, And I for one, and it sounds like you did too, had pretty much the opposite reaction.
Because of if Rem didn't do that, then she might have been best girl.
Yeah.
And the fact that even though he says, "Oh, I love Emilia," and she's still like devote to him.
Yeah, it's her extreme devotion to him. Like I can buy that. Even with how she was murdering him before, I can buy that she at least sort of trusts him now.
Changed her ways. Yeah, exactly.
But like the extent of devotion is like it's the other end of the spectrum, and that was where the point where I was like, okay, she's nuts.
Right. So that's why I think she's nuts. But at the same time, like you said, maybe they just crapped out when it came to writing the rest of her because now they had her model made. Like that's.
Exactly. Like we've got all this merchandise set up. We might as well just make the most of her.
Like,
I mean,
right. Whatever. At this point, like she's just going to continue being best girl, being by his side, no matter what happens, whether she loves him or not. She's going to keep fighting for his affection, right? Like it's like I get it. Like you're doing that now, and it's not charming. It's really not. And like I hope that there was some kind of intention of making her crazy because of that. Because that would make me appreciate her character more. But like
I hope that ends up being the case somehow.
Right. So as far as characters, I thought she was more interesting than Emilia because of this discussion we're having right now.
She may have been more interesting than Emilia, but I don't know. Yeah, Emilia makes more sense to me as a person, and I feel like there are interesting things about Emilia that we haven't explored yet.
This is true. The thing is that I do not understand why Subaru loves Emilia. I don't get that.
Yeah, my
that seems forced to me.
My impression is that he's just kind of, I mean,
he's
kind
a
of a
kid.
naive teenager, dumbass, love at first sight. I mean, between her and Rem, as I listed to a friend, Emilia Prose has never murdered Subaru.
This is true. She has not murdered Subaru. I'm trying to think of a time
and definitely he immediately fell for her like that first day that never happened.
Yeah, see, but even that, I don't know. It's tough, man. It's definitely like a love at first sight kind of story.
It is,
or whatever that is, and like,
well, at least in Subaru's mind, it is.
Right.
We can agree that the women, or should I say the waifus, are like the weak point of this series.
Unfortunately, they are.
Yeah. I will go ahead and say, I don't know if I said it earlier, but my favorite female character of the show was Krush.
Krush is pretty badass.
Yeah. She has her own goals. She makes sense to me as a character, and she's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. That makes sense. She's pretty much working and doing her thing and puts her money where her mouth is when it counts, and she does things, and she's not a prick without reason.
She's not a prick without reason. She is sometimes a prick with reason, but like anyone else, she is ultimately, she has her own interests that she's protecting. And unlike so many females in this anime, she's not just giving Subaru whatever he wants without something in return.
Now, I will say another character that I was actually disappointed that we didn't see more of was Felt.
Beatrice? Oh, Felt. That's true.
I actually enjoyed Felt's character a lot, which I thought she was like, oh, this character's gonna be freaking annoying. I honestly thought that at first. And then I kind of wish she didn't just disappear for more than half of the show.
I agree.
It would have been cool if she showed up some more, because I thought she was interesting.
You know, I probably don't have as many thoughts on her as you do, so I'm interested to hear your analysis of Felt.
Okay. I didn't actually take any notes about Felt, so I'll just say what comes to mind.
Just go for it, man.
Good. Felt, I thought she was going to be an annoying character. Not that I was annoyed first, but was she going to be someone that's like by his side or by the main characters, just kind of like making jokes or whatever or fucking around? And I'm like, oh, don't do that. And they didn't do that. And I was like, okay, great. They actually kind of gave us her backstory without a traumatic flashback, like they did with the demon girls. Like, we have an episode that's dedicated to their past, which is okay, and a lot of animes do that. But you pretty much figure out Felt after you talk to her twice, after you see her like interact with Subaru, talking to the old man guy, whatever, I forget his name. Old man.
Old man.
Old man.
I don't fucking know his name. I know exactly who you're talking about, though. It's the guy with the club.
I want to say Old Man Grom for some reason. Don't know why.
You know what? You nailed it with Subaru's family name, so I'm just going to go with 30 Old Man. Yes, I am Googling. On a podcast.
Old Man Rom. I said Rom.
You were very close.
Okay, Old Man Rom.
You know what? I want to get him together with Rem and Ram.
Yeah,
Ram and Rom.
It's the Ram Rom show.
I feel like maybe the author was not feeling very creative.
I think he picked a random letter blindfolded and then just went with those names.
It's just next time he can't think of a name for a character, he'll just call them Rim. We're gonna see Rum. We're gonna see.
I like it.
Rhyme.
Yep. Sure.
All right.
Felt she was thief, pretty much living in the gutter, essentially.
Very true.
Was trying to do better, but by using her skills in the to do so. Like, she knows how to steal, so she's going to steal.
Was selling her skills, in fact.
Get her way. I
Like a
did
for hire.
feel it was a little bullshit that she kind of became the next like chosen possible ruler.
Yeah.
I mean, like I thought that was interesting. Is that why Reinhardt or whatever his name like fucking like hauled her off so
Yeah.
aggressively?
Oh man, Reinhardt. I've got a Reinhardt on for Reinhardt.
He is too fabulous.
He's pretty fucking good.
He's pretty like excellent at everything he does.
Yeah, and he's just like a cool dude. Like usually I hate those perfect characters, but
If he was the main protagonist, the show would be shit. Gonna throw that out there.
that's true. That is true. I like him as the character that he is.
Yes.
I quite like when he shows up.
Yes.
Like he's one of those characters for me who shows up and I'm like, oh fuck yeah, it's Reinhardt.
Yeah. he's a good dude.
He's fucking Bill from Star Fox. Bill.
Oh, Bill's here.
Exactly.
Excellent. We have a chance.
I do understand. Yeah, it was why he hauled her off. It does seem a little weird, their election process.
What do you think
she
of?
She also thought it was bullshit.
Yeah, which is what I actually liked about that. I thought like, oh, the fact that she's like going to be a princess or whatever, like that's bullshit. But the fact that she was so against it, I was like, I actually like that. This is why I like felt.
Yeah, if I become princess, I'm gonna fuck this country. Like,
Right.
I hate your shitty country.
Question: would they rather someone that's possibly has something to do with the jealous witch versus someone who blatantly says, "I'm going to blow your shit up"?
And I do still want to talk about Emilia. I noted something interesting rewatching the first episode, which was that she introduced herself. She gave the name of Satella when she was asked who she was.
She did.
And which I find pretty interesting. I wonder what her motivation was behind doing that. I wonder if it was like self-hatred over like just people constantly comparing her to the jealous witch because of her appearance, her race. If she just starts to, I don't know. It was an interesting thing to do.
I was confused by it a little bit because she introduced herself as Satella, right? Like you said. And, you know, we see, and Subaru like falls for her. And I was like, I wonder what happens to this Satella character because no one mentions her when it comes to the waifus.
They all talk about this Emilia person. Who the hell is that?
They'll talk about this Emilia and Rem bitches. Like, I don't know.
I had the exact same reaction, actually.
And I'm watching it. Then later, she's Emilia. He also tries to call her Satella again at one point in time after just resurrecting or whatever that is. And she takes offense to it.
Well, because she didn't give him that name before. And because because people do call her that. Because people do compare her to Satella or think that she is the return of Satella.
So I had a theory in my mind, which I don't actually think is true, but I think it's interesting. What if that very first encounter he had with Emilia, as she called herself, Satella, was actually Satella herself in some way?
That's an interesting theory.
I don't know how it would make actual sense or why, but I thought about that briefly at one point in time. What if Emilia
would establish his relationship with Satella, which he seems to have one because it's kind of seems like she has something to do with his whole ability, and he stinks of her, and she grabs his heart when he tries to talk about his curse.
Right. So I'm wondering if that actually is. I think in one episode he actually brings it up, but I don't know if we get an answer. I think he actually brings up like, why would she call herself Satella? And then someone says like, maybe it has something to do with blah blah blah, and then he's just kind of quiet. But I can't remember what that blah 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 was. Maybe she's just uncomfortable with herself, or someone who hates himself, or something.
Which is also kind of what I'm thinking. I don't know. And I remember when she did give him that name, Puck was like, "You have terrible taste."
That's true.
I don't know exactly what that line means, but he said that.
Right. That's true. Oh yeah, Puck was there during that whole scene. So I'm not sure if my theory works at all.
He was surprised when she said that, and he muttered to her, "You have terrible taste," and then went back into her whatever.
See, but I didn't realize at the time, and I thought he was just talking about Subaru.
I actually thought the same thing. That is why I feel like there's more to Emilia that hasn't been explored yet, and I'm interested to find out more.
Yes, Emilia for me is not best girl yet until she's explored more in the show.
But that's part of the reason that I like her, because again with Rem, she just comes off as crazy because like she's just front loaded with so much information after so much actual little time has passed. I'm like, okay, I've learned a little too much about you. A real person would be a little more guarded about themselves, I would think.
Right. Yes.
It makes sense. So Emilia makes sense to me, especially as someone in her position.
You know what they're probably gonna do, these sneaky fuckers. They have Rem set up to be best girl and waifu and all the merchandise now. Next season, all about Emilia. They're going to, instead of putting all their eggs in one basket, they're splitting it up a little bit. And Rem's going to kind of just disappear off to the side, but still be obsessive and really devoted to him. But we already know everything about her. There's nothing left. She's just going to be there just to be like, whatever you say.
More to do with Rem.
And then we'll learn about Emilia.
Yeah.
And then people are going to be like, oh, dang, she's actually cool.
And then they combine the two, Remilia.
That's they do the fusion ha dance. And it's Remilia. Now she's crazy demon witch. I don't know.
Can't forget the maid part.
Maid, yes, of course. She'd be a maid princess.
And a twin. We got to hit all the fetishes.
If she's a maid princess twin, then that means that she cleans up after herself because she's a princess and a maid.
Oh shit! You just blew my fucking mind.
I know, right? Good thing I took notes.
Maid princess who serves herself and cleans up after herself.
Yeah, like a person.
What a self-serving asshole.
Like a normal person. Someone that just helps himself and hopefully is responsible. You know who was kind of cool?
Who? Give it to me.
Wilhelm and Teresia, the bodyguard dude for Krush.
Okay, yes, I know who that is.
And Teresia was his wife in the flashbacks.
Yeah. Yep. That was cool.
They were kind of cool. They had a cool thing going. She was pretty badass, and so was he.
That was nice with the whole with Moby Dick up there.
I felt a little cliche and romanticized and all that stuff, you know, between them. But I was actually okay with that for some reason.
I liked the little story between them.
I like that it kind of gave some characters and the world a little bit even more of a backstory because of them.
Yeah, because like people have their own stories.
Right. You have you're given like piece by piece of like the world that they're in, which is fine and it's good. You don't want to know everything right away, right?
Right.
And that was one of their ways of how the universe works a little bit.
Yeah.
Like some other characters from a long time ago in this world.
Yeah.
And like it was just interesting to see.
It is interesting. And speaking of Subaru in comparison to the world around him.
Yes.
Holy shit. Presumably people go throughout their everyday lives without getting murdered.
Yeah.
Unlike Subaru who struggles to get through the week.
He loves to get murdered.
He either loves to get murdered or he just has the worst luck imaginable.
I mean, he's just really bad at doing things at first. At living, yeah. It makes me feel like
Subaru, you're very bad at being alive. You get dead a lot.
Gosh dang it, Subaru. Gosh dang. Yeah. I mean, if you didn't have that power, man, you were gone a while ago.
Oh yeah. How did you stay alive in Japanese land?
Right. He must not have left his room like at all.
No, he didn't. Not often.
Right. Did they ever explain how he was brought to that world?
No, he just blinked and he closed his eyes. He was in Japan. He opened them. He was in fucking ReZero world.
I feel like that's a little lazy to me. I hope they explain that.
They are. I'm sure they'll have an explanation for what happened, and I hope it's good.
I imagine it has something to do with the witch, but how would that?
But definitely, it would have been better if they did the Konosuba route, where he has a heart attack because he thought he was going to get hit by a tractor, and and get sent to the fantasy world.
That's a thing.
That's what should have happened. Yeah. By the way, did you know that the authors of ReZero and Konosuba,
they hang out?
Yeah, they hang out, and according to the Konosuba author, they mostly shit talk each other.
That's awesome. Yeah, I did know that.
Should do.
Yep, that's great. I wrote a bunch of pretty much last thoughts I had on the show and some questions I had for it. Essentially, what I got from this is that it's a fantasy story in this interesting world, which essentially turns into a who loves who story,
Yeah,
kind of, which is a little
it
disappointing.
does.
But I get it if it's just like
It's a
the
little
beginning.
unfortunate, but I feel like there's enough else there that I can stay interested.
Right. There was so much about the universe and Subaru's abilities that we never really figured out yet.
I feel like it all comes back to Satella. She's the big question mark for me because most of what we hear about her is folklore or Voldemort style fucking she who shall not be named. Nobody wants to talk about it shit.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I imagine that she's linked to these things as far as like how he was brought there, why he has the powers. She's obviously behind it.
Yeah.
How did she do it and where is she? Kind of thing.
Well, I mean,
Did they say she was
she's
dead?
somewhere because she reaches out and grabs his heart every time he tries to talk about his power.
Right. We don't really know much about the witch at all, other than her name is Satella and that she's the jealous witch and that she's obviously behind Subaru's powers.
Yeah. Well, they've got the whole seven deadly sins theme, which is explored a lot in anime. Let's be real.
Yeah. There's like 6 shows I can think of.
They love them. Yeah. They love that shit. And to be fair, so do we. It gets explored a lot in Western shows too. The seven deadly sins will show up.
Yep. I don't mind it personally.
No, it's cool. It's a good way to come up with different things. But yeah, so obviously she represents envy, and then we've got the other 6, which used to have their own witches until I guess she destroyed them, right? Or devoured them or something.
I guess so.
Then, I forget exactly how the whole legend went, but and then I guess they ended up getting embodied in other ways by her, like the whale was gluttony. And of course Beetlejuice was the Archbishop of Sloth.
Right.
And he speculated that Subaru is pride.
Yeah, he did, which is very interesting. Yeah, I have a thought on that.
Okay.
He's pride, right? Or supposedly he's pride. Maybe.
Supposedly. That was Beetlejuice's thought.
Right. Subaru doesn't realize it at all, probably, because he's a little dense, especially at first. It takes him a little bit. It takes him
he's quite dense.
He needs to die a few times before he gets it.
It's a good thing he has that ability because he wouldn't get anywhere without it.
Yeah, but it's actually not great in my mind. I mean, if he didn't have it, the anime would end a lot sooner.
Oh yeah, after episode 2 precisely.
The reason for that ability is not beneficial for his things, for what he's doing. My thought in my head is that the witch gave him this power, right, for him to come back from the dead, essentially, and pretty much retry, start over.
Right.
And everything he's trying to do essentially is for Emilia in the long run. It's to help her or save her.
Yeah, that's true.
I think the witch is using Subaru to get Emilia to that throne, and then God forbid if she somehow takes over Emilia for being the half-elf thing. Like maybe she's somehow connected in that way.
Well, it seems like the cult of the Jealous Witch with Beetlejuice and all them were trying to do something with Emilia.
Right.
I seem to remember him and all his crazy ravings discussing her somewhere, like whether she would be a suitable, I don't remember what he said, vessel for her or something like that.
Yes. So I think that's what she is. I think she's going to be like kind of like the witch's new body at some point in time in the future. And I think she's trying to get Emilia to the throne before that happens. And then once she is, guess who's fucking ruler of everything?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? And she's
using
an
interesting thought.
Subaru to do that because otherwise, why wouldn't she just let him die?
It's a good thought.
Yeah.
The question related to that, or the next question after that is, why Subaru?
That is true. Why Subaru? They could do something silly and stupid, just be like, oh, because, I mean, you'd easily fall in love with this girl because you're a simple-minded person who's just going to like her looks. You know? It's like, because you're a nitwit, that's why. You're prideful. You're going to keep trying until you fail, and you're not going to fail because I keep giving you chances.
You
know?
Well,
Something about his character, maybe?
I would hope that we could have more faith in them than that.
I would hope so.
I'm sure. I know neither of us have probably spoiled ourselves by reading like anything about, because I'm sure the light novels at least are much further along.
Mhm.
So I'm sure a lot of this shit we're speculating on has already been revealed, and someone out there listening is like, "Oh, you two, you're so dumb."
Yeah. I mean, I'll say right now, I don't know shit.
Oh
But
yeah,
I'm trying to pretend I do because I try to think about things sometimes.
I don't know anything, but it's fun to speculate.
Yeah, exactly.
Being spoiled is not as fun.
No.
So we're just having at it. We're just two idiots bullshitting with each other.
Pretty much.
And yeah, I think it would be interesting if it went like that.
Did we ever find out what happened to the belly slicing lady? She never came back.
The bowel hunter, as they called her.
Yeah.
She did not come back. I have heard.
That upsets me.
I've said that spoiling isn't fun, but I've definitely had it spoiled that later in at least the light novels she does appear again.
Okay.
So she comes back.
I hope to see
As a
her
villain.
return. That would be nice. Yeah, because I was a little disappointed. Like, I mean, I thought she was just like a really intense villain.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, oh shit. And the fact that she didn't die and she said she's going to come back, I was like, when is that going to happen? Oh my God.
Not in this season.
Nope, not in this season. How did you feel about the ending?
The ending of the season. I mean, I feel like it left a lot unresolved. Not a lot of questions were answered. I did like that they set up kind of the whole big massacre of the town and the mansion and everything that he couldn't seem to change or get past. And then I did like how that was resolved and how he got on the other side of that and changed as a person for the better.
Right.
For it, which seems like a great way to set up for another season with, a better Subaru.
Yeah.
As a series finale, as you were pretty much saying before, it's no good.
If this is the series finale, it's pretty lackluster.
I agree.
But if it is the beginning of something more, then okay, sure, there's more.
Yeah. From the way it left off, I don't think it's supposed to be the series finale. I think they are really. I would like to think that they are hoping for another season and that we should expect one.
I would definitely,
especially if it's so popular.
Yeah, that too. You think they'd make another? That would be good if they did that. Okay, so he pretty much tells her to her face, like, I love you, Emilia. And then she's like, I don't have an answer for you. That to me is actually okay.
Yes. Agreed.
Because, like, again, that does feel very real to me, because sometimes people confess feelings before their partner or whoever they're talking to is actually ready for that kind of commitment.
Especially considering that, in a way, he's known Emilia a lot longer than she's known him.
That's true too. That's
and
true.
has seen more of her in more situations than
he
she
knows her in all sorts of different situations.
Yeah.
She's only seen him one way.
Yeah, exactly.
So I thought that was okay. But I feel like people could argue that that's like a cop out. Like, a lot of people are just like, after all that and no kiss, and it's like, well, I mean, it would have been nice, I guess. She still could have kissed the guy, but at the same time, if we're shooting for realistic portrayals of these characters as people, no, there shouldn't be. Why would they kiss? Right. As mentioned before, she hasn't
the
known him as
Subaru
long.
that she knows, the Subaru that she knows is the one who has died the maximum number of times, and has thus behaved the most traumatized, paranoid way.
I have
so
seen
understandably, she's a little unsure of him.
Yeah, definitely. I have seen something interesting, but I remember reading a comment where someone mentioned that, like, it would be great if someone made an edit of all his correct attempts.
Yeah, all his actual attempts that ultimately actually happened.
Right, exactly. And then show like the 1 year story.
So that you get to see just how crazy Subaru looks to everyone else.
Right, exactly. That'd be interesting.
I agree. That would be interesting.
So I felt like I complained a lot about this, but I did ultimately enjoy the ride. Obviously, there's a lot more that could be done with it. The story's nowhere near over. Easily needs a second season. I would easily watch a second season if it comes out.
Same.
However, if the second season's not made, and then personally, this probably drops a few ranks in my book or whatever you want to call that. Like it becomes something that like has a lot of potential to just okay.
Yeah. Well, because then the potential is never fulfilled.
Right. A friend of mine watched this as it was coming out, and he just said it was a really good, thought-provoking anime and blah blah blah. And like after that, I'm kind of like, I wonder if he actually finished it, because like it is, but at the same time, it's like not.
It's kind of sounding like you weren't feeling it so much.
I did enjoy it. I love the mechanic of Subaru dying and returning and seeing what he does different and how he changes, and his development. And I liked seeing the different interactions he's had with the twins and Emilia and the other people around him, and how that changes and how that would change other things and stuff. Like I did think that was really interesting.
And I guess in a sense that is kind of thought-provoking, and the proof that it's fairly thought-provoking is in the fact that just we're sitting here talking about it with each other at such length. But
we are.
I don't know. It's not that deep. I've watched much deeper anime that left me feeling like, wow, like changed.
Right.
Whereas this, it had its moments, but
it needed a little more. It felt like it definitely. I don't want to say that it felt exactly. I was about to say that it felt like it fell flat at points, but it really didn't. And it like you said, it just felt incomplete. It needed more things. It needed more stuff. And if they don't make that second season, then it's just gonna be like, okay, well, it feels a little half-assed. It feels like every other anime that's just like, oh, now go read the light novels, and I don't want it to be that, because
I don't either, because it feels like we haven't seen all of the journeys of these characters. We still have so many questions unanswered.
Yeah, there's so many questions unanswered, and they really do need to be answered.
And I know sometimes they are shooting for another season, but I guess it's just hard sometimes for anime studios.
Sometimes they don't have the budget for it.
Yeah, they just don't get the budget. They don't get the support.
Yeah. That's really unfortunate.
Like, well, it didn't up these sales enough, so fuck you and your anime. We'll just run this instead.
Oh, one last thing. Thank God for cell phones. Holy shit.
Yeah, he got so much use out of that useless cell phone.
That cell phone saved his ass on multiple occasions.
Yes, it did.
Like, holy crap. Good for him.
Yeah, that's he fucking defeated Flying Moby Dick with a cell phone.
Yeah, pretty much. It's a shame that he didn't like resort to that as his first try every time.
Yeah. Well,
up against someone who's going to kill him. Hey, check out my cell phone. It's really rare.
Eventually, one of these times that he tries to bargain it away as a magical artifact, he's going to actually have to trade it for something.
That's true. So maybe it wouldn't work. He'd have to have multiple cell phones, which he doesn't.
He'll just have to invent cell phones in this world and then become rich.
Didn't they like not cell phones itself, but like the device that he's referring to? It's just a different kind.
Yeah. Well, no. In that world, it's like a magical device,
right?
But of course it's not magical, so he's kind of lying, but kind of not, because functionally it does whatever he's saying it does.
It's true. It's just not magic. It's technology.
It's not magic, and also it's eventually going to run out of power, and poor fucking bastard who traded away for it. Yeah, thank God for cell phones.
Yeah, they come in handy. I mean, if without mine, I wouldn't have my notes.
It's true.
I'd be more of a gibbering mess than I am now.
Wow, that's hard to believe. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. I'm just giving you a hard time.
It's all right. It's completely. So ReZero was pretty all right in my book.
You okay? You okay, Rob? You okay over there, Rob? You feeling all right?
Am I talking with
Somebody need a hug? Oh.
I'm just trying my best. Okay.
Roshi-san, steal me, my-san.
So if you had to, I want to actually give this a rating. 1 through 10, 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest. And we don't need any like stupid IGN ratings. Like a 7's really a 2. Like we don't need that. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
Like,
I wouldn't do that.
Like
I would
10,
never do that.
10 is like really like you can
10 is
barely see
perfect.
any, pretty much perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
And 1 is absolute trash garbage. Like you want to like almost
Deers.
die. Okay. Yeah, like deers.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I just came out and said it. Sorry if you like deers, but not sorry.
Hey,
if
you're
you
allowed
deers.
to like you're allowed to like deers, and we don't want to bash your trash because
I do. I want to bash it.
okay. We kind of want to. We're going to bash your shit.
No, it's okay, Rob. You don't have to take part in it. It's I
No.
can be the asshole bashing.
No, I want to now.
But
Deers was really bad. Anyway. So
yeah,
like 5 is average, 1 is deers, and 10 is like, oh my fucking god! Like you have.
it's 10 is like it's
multiple
made of
orgasms.
fucking cookies.
Yeah. Essentially.
No, I can't even think of a 10 right now. Like
It's ooh.
I can't
like-
think of it. I can't think of an anime I would rate 10 on that scale, on my personal scale.
It's really hard. I know some that are close, but
Yeah,
I don't know.
I know some that are close, but not quite there for me. I don't know. I'll let you know if I ever do find one.
Yes, please.
But yeah, as far as ReZero goes, I would say I'm gonna go pretty high and say maybe a 7.
All right. Actually, that is the same rating I gave it moments after I finished watching the show, because I have it written
Nice.
right here. Yeah. So I also gave it a 7 out of 10. Above average, good. It has potential. It obviously needs more for a higher score in my book.
Yeah, I agree.
So I mean,
with a
who
really
knows?
with a really good second season, it could get up to 8 or 9.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I will probably always subtract at least 1 point for the problems that I have.
Oh yeah. I mean, you always have to.
Yeah.
It's really hard to find anything perfect.
It's true.
As far as the final thing to discuss here for now,
Uh-huh.
a topic for next time.
A topic for next time. Oh,
Right.
no.
Or a show that we should watch, or maybe something that you've watched and I should watch, or vice versa.
Okay. Have you seen Konosuba yet?
You know what? I actually just started watching it the other
Good.
night. I'm
Good.
like 2 episodes in.
All right,
since
cool.
I just started it.
I would definitely recommend that you do that. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Sorry, I'm someone who watches a lot of anime at once.
I prefer marathoning anime. Personally.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's how-
I get in different moods. I can't binge something for too much before I want to watch something else. So I keep I juggle a few at once.
That makes sense. All right. So I think this might have worked out. You know, I have faith. I believe our 1 or 2 viewers enjoyed what they heard, maybe.
Hey, this was our first time.
Usually the first times are the worst. We'll get better
Absolutely.
as we go.
I hope so. And
Or-
I feel like I was entertained at least. I really enjoyed sitting and talking with you about it.
Yes, and we shall definitely do that again soon.
Good. All right.
Okay.
Let's go and watch our respective anime, and then we'll reconvene with whatever we decide is compelling enough to talk about.
Stay tuned for next time when we talk about
Boku
anime.
no Pico.
No, not that. Bye.
Baka Talk.
Just edit this part out,
Mm-hmm.
along with the 20,000 other parts. It's cool.
It's all good. We got a good like 3 minutes, I think.
Wow.
I'm kidding.
Wow, you're generous.